When I was a kid, I found Hitmonlee extremely unsettling. If in the 90s this thing was in a live-action movie and my parents somehow irresponsibly decided to show it to me, I don't think I would have slept for weeks. It doesn't have a head, its eyes are on its body, and its limbs are these strange springs. But it's not only terrifying to the child version of me, it's also going to be terrifying to all the Kanto NPCs. It'll keep them up at night haunted by the memories of their horrific battles against it, because starting in Generation 3, the fighting type became completely broken. So my hypothesis is that in a solo run, Hitmonlee is going to crush the game with speed and ease. Where Mr. Mime failed, Hitmonlee might succeed because I think it has a chance of beating Mewtwo's 57-minute first attempt result. Rules for the playthrough are in the description. For base stats, Hitmonlee has 50 HP, 120 attack, 53 defense, 87 speed, 35 special attack, and 110 special defense. It has a medium fast growth rate, which is decent for solo challenges. All of my FireRed playthroughs feature a hardy nature just to make comparisons a little bit easier while I'm still learning the game. Its ability is Limber, which means it can't be paralyzed in battle, and that's going to be really useful. Being paralyzed in a solo challenge is one of the worst things that can happen, and when that status is combined with something like Confusion, things get really bad really fast. That said, I should mention that the AI doesn't know what your ability is until it first sees the ability activate, so there will be cases where they'll waste their turn trying to paralyze me, giving Hitmonlee a significant lead in the battle. Okay, so it's a fairly fast physical attacker, but this thing's strength really comes in the form of its move pool. It starts with Revenge and Double Kick, two fighting type moves, then learns Meditate at level 6, which boosts its attack stat, Rolling Kick at level 11, Jump Kick at level 16, Brick Break at level 20, Focus Energy at 21, which actually works in Generation 3. From there, things go downhill: Mind Reader, Foresight, Endure, Mega Kick, and Reversal, all of which are probably not going to be useful in this run, but there might be a niche case where Reversal comes in handy as long as I can predict damage ranges. Through TM, HM, and Tutor, it gets a limited set, but everything it needs: Earthquake and Rock Slide. Rock Slide covers flying type Pokemon, Earthquake is great powerful coverage, but it comes late into the playthrough after I defeat Giovanni. Hopefully until then, I'm going to be able to rely on my fighting type moves and some normal type coverage. But doing that is a little bit annoying in the early game because there are a lot of bug type Pokemon, and some of them have the additional typing, the poison type, so I want to avoid the Weedles in the forest if possible because I'll deal quarter damage to them. Instead, I fight Bugcatcher Anthony, who's at the northern part of the forest because he has 2 Caterpie, so at least I'm dealing half damage here and I can gain some experience. I also fight Bugcatcher Charlie, who has 2 Metapod. While these do set up their defenses, it doesn't really matter because I can set up my attack with Meditate and then deal massive damage to his following 2 Pokemon. The mandatory Bugcatcher has a Weedle, but there's a way for Hitmonlee to get around it because Revenge's base power is doubled whenever you get hit first, and it's a lower priority move, so that's always going to happen in this scenario. My overlay doesn't display the doubled effective power, so in this case it would be 45. It allows me to take a quick victory over the Weedle and head into Pewter City. Inside the gym, I fight the Camper for some quick experience. He has a Geodude and a Sandshrew, which really aren't that good against Hitmonlee. This levels me up to 10 before the first gym leader, Brock. I don't think that Brock has anything he can do against me. I can set up Meditate against the Geodude. I figured that only +1 would be required, but it might have been better to go to +2. I just barely don't take the Geodude down in 1 turn. Still, it doesn't matter. I have green health for the Onix, plus a level up to 11 and learn Rolling Kick before it comes in. I take a little bit of time reordering my moves, and of course Rolling Kick just 2-shots the Onix, so that's an easy first badge. It gives me a badge boost to my attack stat, which raises it by 10%. This will be helpful throughout the remainder of the playthrough. Also, the TM Brock gives me is Rock Tomb, which gives me an answer for bug-type Pokemon. At least in theory, it's probably gonna miss, right? This move is such trash. It actually performs decently well for me on Route 3, only missing a single time against the Bugcatcher with 4 Pokemon, so that's not a bad performance, no delays here. Before Mount Moon, I stop and pick up the Person Berry. This will be useful in a little bit. Then inside the cave, I level up to 16 and I teach Jump Kick in the place of Rolling Kick. It has higher base power and accuracy. This is just an improved version of Rolling Kick. During my time in the cave, I do fight some optional trainers. I didn't want to be underleveled for the rivals Pidgeotto in Cerulean City. Before I get there though, I also get one more coverage move in the form of Mega Punch or Mega Kick from these 2 move tutors. I figured Mega Punch would be better. It has higher accuracy. It's just a little bit more consistent, so I teach it in the place of Double Kick. Okay, time for the rival. I don't think facing Misty makes sense defense, even though my special defense is quite good. The fact that I'm only level 18 and I'm not going to outspeed the Starmie would probably give me more problems in some resets. I don't want Hitmonlee to have any delays this early on. I thought that at this level, over a damage rounding threshold, Rock Tomb might one-hit the Pidgeotto because my attack stat is so good, but it doesn't, and then the bird uses Sand Attack. The most annoying move in the entire game. I hate this move. It is so frustrating. By the way, Jump Kick does have slightly higher effective power, and it has better accuracy, so I don't know why I'm using Rock Tomb. I should be using Jump Kick instead. To knock it out, I choose another terrible move, Mega Punch. Again, Jump Kick, that's the better move. Just go for it. I don't figure this out against the Abra or the following Rattata, but luckily, my accuracy being dropped doesn't prevent me from attacking them, although it does start to prevent my attacks against the Charmander. I continue spamming Mega Punch, despite the fact that Jump Kick is definitely the best move, and eventually, I win. On Route 25, I move the Camper out of the way, pick up the Secret Power TM, and now I have a more reliable normal type move. Inside the Cerulean City Gym, I collect experience by battling the 2 optional trainers, and then I figured I'm level 24, so I might as well take on Misty. I should be able to do it. For this battle, there's a couple updates that I need to draw your attention to. I have Brick Break now instead of Jump Kick, so there's no chance of my fighting type moves missing, and with 55 speed, Hitmonlee is faster than the Starmie, which has 53 speed. Brick Break one-shots the Staryu because it's not a psychic type, and then her ace comes in, but I can just use Secret Power for it. I inflict paralysis right away. Water Pulse does very little to Hitmonlee, and then the Starmie starts chaining Recover. It's annoying, but Secret Power looks like it's doing slightly more damage, so I think eventually I'm going to get the damage range I need to knock it out. And eventually I do. Okay, time for the SSN. In here I'm going to pick up Rest. I know a lot of people don't like it when I use this move, but it's one of my favorites in the game, and in case Hitmonlee needs recovery later on, I at least have it in my bag. I'm also going to pick up the Brick Break TM, just in case I unlearn this move at some point and want to teach it again. I don't know what scenario would cause that to happen, but I just want to be safe. That's the whole point of coming into the SSN. Essentially everything I do here is just for extra safety in the playthrough, like picking up these 3 berries in the kitchen. The rival battle is next. He's pathetic here. I can just Brick Break the Pidgeotto. I have a chance to learn High Jump Kick here, which I debated for a little bit, and in the end I decided against, just because it's inaccurate and deals a lot of recoil damage. Kadabra is next. I one-shot with Secret Power. Raticate goes down to Brick Break, and that leaves only Charmeleon. But my fighting type is just good enough. It sweeps his team, and with that we have to take on the worst gym leader in the game. Surge is quite frankly pathetic. I'm going to set up here with Meditate once. I don't think I needed to. I could probably just sweep anyway. Oh well. I wanted to be safe just so I can use Secret Power, which doesn't make contact, so I'm not going to get paralyzed by the Pikachu or the Raichu's static. With +1 in attack, the Pikachu goes down with no problem, and then I use Brick Break on the Raichu, knowing that I'll have enough damage. I also get a critical hit. Nice. Surge is defeated. That's that. The section of the game leading to Celadon City is a lot easier in FireRed when compared with Generation 1. You might be curious about the Pokemaniac that have Slowpoke. They do know Confusion, which is super effective, but the Hitmon's special defenses are really good, so I'm not that worried about them, and I can also set up Meditate against the Cubone so that once I make it to the Slowpoke, I'm insured to one-hit. At the very end of the tunnel comes the Rock Slide move tutor, and of course I'm going to use this to replace Rock Tomb. South of Lavender Town, I grab the TM for return. This is a powerful normal type move, and it might be useful later into the playthrough, but I'm going to hold off on teaching it for now and just keep using Secret Power for the immediate future. Sometimes movesets get a little bit constrained in the mid-game, and I don't like unlearning return because I can't get another copy of the TM if I want it back. Okay, time for the Rocket Hideout. This is a great opportunity for me to explain Intimidate, one of the most annoying abilities for the opponent's Pokemon to have when you're a physical attacker. Luckily for Hitmonlee, it can just counter out the Intimidate by using Meditate. Not a lot of other physical attackers have that option available to them this early into the run. Okay, Giovanni, he has Rock-type Pokemon and Normal-type Pokemon. I'm just gonna win. It's so simple. The only way that Hitmonlee is really losing time in this playthrough is whenever I set up Meditate, just thinking that I need a little bit more damage. After all, in this fight, sometimes the Kangaskhan is problematic using Fake Out, then lowering your defense with Tail Whip, and doing a lot of damage with Mega Punch. I didn't want that to be a scenario, so I set up so that I would one-shot. With Giovanni taken care of, I head to the department store and buy myself some vitamins. In this case, the choice is obvious.
alias 4 protein to increase Hitmonlee's attack. The rival in Pokemon Tower is next, and here I should mention the starter that he has, it's Charmeleon. This is specifically so he'll choose Charizard as his final Pokemon because it's a flying type and it knows Wing Attack. That said, another flying type is causing problems in this battle because his lead Pidgeotto uses Sand Attack a total of 3 times before I finally knock it out. With my accuracy lowered this much, I think I might have my first reset during this battle, and I really didn't think that was going to happen. Typically, Rival 4 is not a difficult battle. The second Pokemon he sends in is Execute. Hitmonlee luckily hits a Secret Power, knocking it out in a single turn. Again, setup is helpful here even though my accuracy is lowered, because when I do hit, at least I'm ensured that I'm going to knock out the opponent's Pokemon. Well, until Gyarados comes in and lowers my attack with Intimidate. Even with accuracy dropped, Rock Slide comes through, getting the 45% chance to hit, knocking out the Gyarados, and from there only the Charmeleon is left. I choose Brick Break, it hits, and the rival's defeated. No resets for now, let's keep going with the playthrough. I'm going to head south to the Safari Zone, first through Cycling Road. This is typically the location where I start some of my optional training in the mid-game just to ensure my Pokemon isn't at an extremely low level by the time it reaches the champion. Also, the experience yields are very good here when you're facing Pokemon like Weezing, which are fully evolved. I thought this was a good idea, but in retrospect it really wasn't. I'm not able to one-shot any of the Pokemon, and then Weezing poisons me with Sludge, and this is where Hitmonlee faints for the first time. I was lucky that I had some foresight saving before these battles, so I'm just gonna skip them for now. I'll get experience somewhere else. I play all of these challenges on 4 times speed, and sometimes I make little mistakes. I run into a Paris in the Safari Zone, and I was spamming A, probably looking at my secondary monitor, and that leads me to waste a tiny bit of time catching an accidental Paris. By the way, this seems like the most boring thing to mention, like, yeah, I caught a Paris, it doesn't really matter, just get on with the run. Okay, I will, but maybe this small time loss will end up mattering. Next, I head back to Celadon City, into the gym, and now I'm gonna face Erika. I felt confident with this battle, but I think I'm making a mistake. I should have a Cherry Berry equipped. Even if Surge causes me to lose my first one that I obtained on the SSN, there is a second one just outside of Rock Tunnel that I could have picked up. Overall, though, I just think I was trying to go too fast, and I didn't want to open my inventory to give Hitmonlee another item. I set up Meditate once, and luckily Victory Belt does not go for Stun Spore, instead choosing Acid. From there I use Secret Power, knocking out her first Pokemon in a single hit. Okay, it looks like it's going to be a clean sweep. Tangela goes down, Vileplume's last. Yes, it is her most defensive Pokemon, but Secret Power still just does far too much damage. Okay, so I'm heading into Silph now, and this is where we need to address what I said at the beginning of the video. In Generation 3, fighting types became completely broken. This is a great glow up for the typing, because in Generation 1, it's quite frankly trash. Maybe it just barely saves itself from being the worst typing, because the bug and the poison type do exist, but it's in that realm. So why in Generation 3 are fighting types so much better? And the answer is quite simple. They get access to the move Bulk Up, which is a TM, and it replaces Swords Dance in Silph. In Generation 1, so many grass types get access to Swords Dance, as well as a bunch of other good Pokemon like Sandslash, but in this case, fighting types generally get access to Bulk Up, and it's really good because it boosts both your attack and your defense by a single stage. It's essentially Generation 2's curse, but without the downside of lowering your speed, and it comes this early on into the run. And it could come even earlier. I could get it before Surge if I really didn't want access to Fly and just to walk around everywhere. I teach it, of course, in the place of Meditate, and now I'm ready to face the rival in Silph. I'm level 41. This is quite underleveled for this battle. Typically I like to be level 50 for it, but I figured that maybe with Bulk Up, Hitmonlee could pull it off. I didn't want to take time setting up against the Pidgeot, instead prioritizing Rock Slide to one-shot. In the end, this is the wrong choice because it just barely survives, uses Wing Attack, and does about half to Hitmonlee. My next Rock Slide knocks it out, but I'm not in a great position for the remainder of the battle. Still, the rival chooses to send in Execute next, and it does have Stun Spore, so I decided to chance a Bulk Up here because maybe it will try to inflict the status on me, but no, instead it goes for Sleep Powder. Limber doesn't save me from that, and then with Confusion, it's able to knock Hitmonlee out, giving me my second reset. Okay, so there is an option to use Bulk Up right away on the Pidgeot, but maybe my damage range sometimes will knock it out. Not in this case, but I get a flinch, so that allows Secret Power to knock it out, and I have all of my health left over for the Execute.
I once again go for bulk up. It just attacks with confusion, which is okay for me. I do a decent amount of damage with secret power. I probably should be teaching return by this point. Either way, I take about half damage and then I knock it out. Secret power comes through, one-shotting the following Alakazam, and that leads to Charizard for the first time. Rock Slide will do 4 times damage. If it actually hits, it misses. Charizard uses Scary Face. It moves first, hits with Wing Attack, but Hitmonlee gets one more turn because it survives on 8 hit points. Rock Slide hits and Charizard faints. My setup with bulk up now is helping me to retain a decent attacking stat against the Gyarados, but it is faster than Hitmonlee. It chooses Twister, which is an absolutely awful dragon type move. Hitmonlee survives from 8 hit points on 2 hit points. This gives it time to use one more Rock Slide, and with that the rival is defeated. Okay, so there's a fight against Giovanni. I just want to quickly break down what happened against the rival there while we watch this footage play out. Starting in Generation 2, the AI starts picking its moves based on which one will deal the most damage. But in Generation 3, when a bunch of moves all will get the KO, then it'll just choose between those moves. So what must have happened is Gyarados rolled a good enough damage range in its test with Twister to knock Hitmonlee out, but then when it used the move, it didn't get as good of a damage roll and I just barely survived. So Hitmonlee definitely got lucky there, but it really didn't need luck against Giovanni. This fight was very easy. With him defeated, I have to choose where I'm going to go next, and I decided on Koga's gym. I'm going to draw attention to Juggler Kirk here because he has a bunch of psychic types, which you might be worried about. Remember, my special defense is high. This is news to you if you're from Generation 1, because the Hitmons have, quite frankly, trash special in those games. But here, after one turn of setup, I just sweep his entire team using secret power. I do some additional training in the gym, fighting the Tamer for more experience, and then I go up against Koga. As expected, Hitmonlee is just flying through this game. The timer is around 41 minutes here when the Koga fight is starting. That gives me roughly 19 minutes to finish the game if I want Hitmonlee to have a sub-hour time. And I would need to beat the game in the next 15 minutes if I was going to unseat Mewtwo from its first place spot. That said, things get a little bit bumpy here because I do set up bulk up once against Koga, but this is not enough. Then the Muck is really annoying with acid armor and Koga loves to heal it, so it takes me quite some time to defeat it. The second coughing comes in, Rock Slide one-shots, and that leads to his wheezing, where I miss with Rock Slide once. Because of this, I take 2 hits from Sludge, but Hitmonlee hangs on and gets one more Rock Slide in. But it's a rock move, so of course it misses, and because of that, I get a reset. Okay, that was frustrating. I decided instead, maybe I should just set up more against the first coughing. If I can get to +2 or 3, then the rest of the fight's going to be much easier. But this comes with its own liability, because while I do have a Pecha Berry, the coughing poisons me 2 turns in a row, so now I have the status condition for the rest of the battle. Up until this point, I haven't mentioned the move Substitute, which is by far one of the most broken defensive moves in the game. I think at this point in the run, I probably should have given up secret power for it, because it really would have made coughing a lot simpler. It blocks Toxic, Smokescreen, it allows me to set up against the first coughing with impunity, and then I could sweep his team for free. That said, without Substitute, I am just barely able to survive the poison damage and move on to the wheezing, but Rock Slide with +2 doesn't do nearly enough. What it really takes is not getting poisoned, I get set up to +3, so the wheezing isn't a problem, and finally I defeat Koga. Although Hitmonlee had quite the setback there, and I wasn't expecting it. I don't think it should have any problems against Blaine, who's coming up next. Rock Slide is super effective, his initial Pokemon aren't very good, and mostly they're special attackers with fire-type moves. But Koga was a surprise, so maybe Blaine will be too. His lead is Growlithe, which has Intimidate, but since it's weak, I can take my time here and set up with Bulk Up. The thing is, Fire Blast is dealing a decent amount of damage, so after I get to +1, I didn't want to set up any more. I go for Brick Break, knocking his lead out, as well as the following Ponyta, and then he sends in Rapidash. I continue using Brick Break, fearing that I would miss with Rock Slide, and luckily the Fighting type move does enough to knock out the Flaming Horse. Last is Arcanine, and here I'm thankful I was able to get set up to +1 attack because it counters out Intimidate, leaving me with my default attack stat. I'm going to use Rock Slide for more damage, but it doesn't have enough. Arcanine survives on red health and it flinches, so yeah, Hitmonlee wins. Well, Blaine uses a Hyper Potion and I used Rock Slide again, just spamming A a little bit too fast. Luckily, this takes the Arcanine back down to low health and then I choose Brick Break. He uses another Hyper Potion, wasting my time, but Brick Break does more than half, so if I just spam it, he has lost. Okay, there's only one gym leader left, right? So I head to the Vermilion City gym, and of course, the doors are locked. I forgot that I have to go back to Saffron City and face Sabrina. When I reflect on Kanto, I always think about how overpowered the psychic type was. That said, Sabrina is not really a good representative for the type because her team is just not very strong in these games. In Yellow version, it's a bit of a different story because she has higher levels, meaning higher speed stats, but in Red and Blue, and then later FireRed and Leaf Green, her speed stats are really not that good. 84 for Kadabra, 71 for Mr. Mime, 73 for Venomoth, the psychic type of course, and Alakazam has 108. Hitmonlee is faster than all these Pokemon, it's a physical attacker, and I set up to +2 because her early Pokemon are just not very good. Alakazam comes out second last, she's saving Venomoth as her ace. Makes sense actually. I was also really surprised when Secret Power doesn't one-hit. I know there was a Reflect in place, but I still thought it would have enough damage. Sabrina uses a Hyper Potion, but with Reflect gone, I am able to one-hit the Alakazam and move on to the Venomoth. Okay, so Secret Power should come through for me here, and it does. With that, I only have one gym leader left. Giovanni and FireRed is quite frankly pathetic. Here Substitute would once again help because it could block the Scary Face from the first Rhyhorn, meaning I would outspeed the Dugtrio, the Nidoqueen, and the Nidoking. However, with +2 attack and +2 defense, I am able to shrug off being hit by Earthquake and still one-hit his Pokemon. I have a chance to learn Reversal here, but I say no to it. I don't think it'll be useful. After that, I crush the Nidoking, move on to the final Rhyhorn, which is somehow not a Rhydon, Brick Break 1 hits, and I earn myself the 8th badge. But the more important prize here is the TM for Earthquake, which I'm going to teach in the place of Secret Power. Hopefully now it makes a little bit more sense as to why I was holding off on teaching Return. I think this is my final set, but I want to keep my options open just in case I run into something that I haven't anticipated. Before the rival battle on Route 22, I'm going to use 9 of my 10 rare candies to boost Hitmonlee from level 51 to 60. I did this because this fight tends to be a wall for a lot of Pokemon, and I end up having to use rare candies anyways after some resets. Anticipating this will help me save real time, and I really need to do that right now because I think it is possible to get the sub-hour finish. We're approaching 52 minutes by the time the Charizard hits the field. I go for Rock Slide, it hits, and his ace goes down. From there, things are going to get easier. I can take time on the Rhyhorn, setting up Bulk Up once to ensure that I one-shot the Execute that follows with Rock Slide. Well, unless I miss. This move is so frustrating. Luckily, the Grass type just misses Sleep Powder and I knock it out. Blast is Gyarados, but even with Intimidate, I'm still able to one-hit. Alright, there's only 5 battles left. Let's see if Hitmonlee can do this. Lorelai's first, and I think Hitmonlee has a very good matchup against her. Good special defense means I won't take too much from ice and water type moves. I have Bulk Up, and the Dugong generally likes to set up Safeguard and Hail at the beginning of the battle, so I can set up, and then I have super effective damage in the form of Brick Break. One of the Pokemon that I don't really have a good answer for is the Slowbro. In this case, Earthquake is going to do the most damage, and I get a critical hit, knocking it out in one turn. Cloyster comes out next. I one-shot with Brick Break. That leads to Jinx, but here Brick Break is neutral because of its ice typing, so I can just continue my spree. Horace Lapras is last, and of course it is also a one-hit, so let's move on to Bruno. With a lead like Onix, I can kind of do whatever I want. I was worried about getting hit here by Rock Tomb and having my speed lowered, and this does happen. I'm slower than all of his Pokemon now, which is an inconvenience, although this still doesn't end in a loss, because with my defense stat raised, his physical attackers just can't do enough damage. Agatha's next, and in Generation 1 she makes the run so inconsistent for Hitmonlee, it is genuinely infuriating. There aren't very many choices on the table. I have to either use Mimic to steal Lick, or I have to use Seismic Toss, both options which are not particularly good. In this case though, I have access to Rock Slide to counter the ghosts, so while it is inconsistent, I figured that it shouldn't be that bad, unless the Gengar immediately uses Toxic so that I have to reset because she has too many Pokemon and I'm going to faint to poison damage. I don't want to be wasting time. Look at the clock. We are approaching the hour mark, and it does appear that Hitmonlee is just barely not going to be able to outperform Mewtwo's results, provided it's able to get through Agatha's team. So in the next battle, once again Gengar uses Toxic. This time I decided to play things out and see if it was possible, and I think it is. So maybe I made a mistake resetting a little bit prematurely in the previous attempt. And yes, I did, because I'm able to defeat the Gengar, move on to the Arbok, just barely survive the poison damage and win. Lance is a tricky case for Hitmonlee. Up until this point, I haven't really mentioned that many speed stats because mostly I've been moving first against the enemy Pokemon. In this case though, the Aerodactyl has 173 speed, which is 10 more than Hitmonlee. When fighting his Gyarados for the first time, I pushed things a little bit too far with Bulk Up, and because of that I'm taken to red health before I knock out his lead. As a result, when Aerodactyl comes in, even with +4 defense, I do not survive its wing attack. It's pretty obvious what I need to do. I just need to set up less and move on with more health so that I can survive the hit from Aerodactyl. I get set up to +3, well in this case +2 attack, +3 defense. Then I miss a Rock Slide, which was really unfortunate. Gyarados hits a Dragon Rage, taking me to orange health before I knock it out on the next turn. I wasn't sure if I was going to survive here. Aerodactyl goes for a wing attack, and yes, Hitmonlee does with 18 hit points. Brick Break hits, and the prehistoric Pokemon faints. But will I have enough damage with Rock Slide to one-shot the Dragonite? And the answer is yes, I do. Rock Slide knocks it out, and with that, the final 2 Dragonairs are easy to clean up, and Hitmonlee has arrived just before the champion. I'm going to use 2 rare candies here to boost it to level 66, and now, quickly, let's look at the time. 58 minutes and 9 seconds. It is still possible for me to get a sub-hour first attempt. The champion battle does not start off well. Pidgeot survives Rock Slide with red health and uses Sand Attack, lowering my accuracy. After a full restore, the Pidgeot once again survives. I don't think I have the damage range to pull it off, even if I rolled the best possible damage. From there, things spiral out of control. Rock Slide misses, Aerial Ace is doing so much damage, and I take a loss. I think this might slip through Hitmonlee's 3 fingers. The time is approaching 59 minutes now, and I need to get set up for this battle. I use Bulk Up once, reducing the damage from Aerial Ace, and then Rock Slide can one-shot his lead. As Alakazam comes in and I choose my move, the clock ticks over 59 minutes. I go for Earthquake, one-shotting the Psychic type, moving on to the Charizard. Okay, Rock Slide, please don't miss. If you miss right now, I'm going to be so frustrated, and it doesn't. Charizard gets taken out with a single hit, only 3 Pokemon left. Executor is first, and I don't really have a good move for this thing. I guess I have to use Rock Slide, and of course it misses. Executor sets up Light Screen, which doesn't make any sense. Rock Slide hits, doing half. Egg Bomb takes Hitmonlee down to a similar amount of health, and then I knock out the Grass type on the next turn. Okay, so unless something goes really wrong from here, I think I've got it. The clock is approaching 59 minutes and 20 seconds when Rhydon goes down, leaving only Gyarados. Intimidate neutralizes my beneficial attack boost, but I can use Rock Slide to hit the Gyarados for super effective damage. It doesn't do enough. I was so worried that the water type was going to go for Hydro Pump, but instead it prioritizes Dragon Rage, which Hitmonlee survives, and with that, the champion is defeated. Hitmonlee clocks in with a sub-hour time, 59 minutes and 27 seconds, with 7 resets, 0 blackouts at level 67 with a game time of 3 hours and 36 minutes. Before ranking it, let's go through the league again and defeat all the rematches, timing this section of the game independently. Lorelei is typically easier here because the Dugong loves to spam double team, giving me more time if I want to set up with Bulk Up, or it's just going to attack and do very little damage. I go to +2 and then I sweep through her team. This is actually a really easy fight for Hitmonlee. But the next one is Bruno, and he is typically the most difficult trainer in all of FireRed. Normally this is the case because I don't have a good answer for the Steelix at the beginning of the battle, but in this case with Bulk Up and Earthquake, I do. I fumble around here a little bit, setting up, trying to knock it out. He uses a full restore and lowers my speed with 2 Rock Tombs. This is annoying, but it's not going to change the outcome of the fight. But this is not going to change the outcome of the fight because like in the previous battle against him, the fact that my defense is raised just means he can't do enough. I think maybe the Machamp could knock me out with a critical hit from Cross Chop, but it doesn't get one. In the first rematch battle against Agatha, I learned something right away. Gengar can crit with Psychic and knock me out in 1 turn. That's unfortunate. Also, if I set up Bulk Up once and then attack with Rock Slide, it is not enough to KO the first Gengar. That means the second one is also going to survive. So I'll need at least +2. And getting that is going to be quite tricky because the Gengar can mess me up in 3 ways. Number 1, Psychic, number 2, Confuse Ray, and number 3, Hypnosis. One of my favorite moves in Generation 1, but not in this case when the AI is using it against me. I have reset after reset after reset after reset, trying to get by the first Gengar with a decent amount of setup. I didn't want to black out and level up more because there isn't an efficient place to train other than just doing repeated league attempts. Also, the luck that I need isn't that extreme because I can play around the fact that Gengar likes to use Hypnosis. If I hold a Chesto Berry, I'll just cure the status condition right away. Also, Confuse Ray doesn't completely mess me up, I could still attack. That's exactly what happens here. My luck just keeps getting better because then the Gengar misses Hypnosis, not once, but twice. This lets Hitmonlee get set up to +3 attack, and this is going to be more than enough. So as long as Rock Slide comes through for me, I should win. I hit the Gengar, knocking it out. Next she sends in Crobat, and Rock Slide misses. Just great. I was so afraid because the Crobat chooses Confuse Ray, and if Hitmonlee had knocked itself out, I would have been devastated. Luckily, Confusion doesn't cause problems. I still hit with Rock Slide and Crobat goes down. By the way, the luck continues because Hitmonlee snaps out of Confusion, hits Misdreavus, knocking it out. Gengar, I do miss here, take a Psychic, which does a lot of damage. I cannot take another one of those. However, Rock Slide comes through for me, Gengar faints, and with that I can Earthquake the Arbok. Remember when I said that Limber is not known by the AI? We haven't seen this interaction play out yet, but here against Lance, we're going to see it for the first time. The Gyarados knows Thunder Wave and it loves to use this move if it's outsped. So in this case, after I set a Bulk Up, it tries for the status move and it just fails. From here on out, the AI has awareness of what my ability is, so it's not going to choose it again, instead prioritizing Earthquake. But this is okay because as I set up with Bulk Up, my defenses are increasing and I take less and less damage. I bring my attack stat up to +2. I figured this was enough, and I still have health reserves so that I can survive the Aerodactyl's attack because it's still faster. It is the fastest Pokemon in the game with 208 speed. It goes for Aerial Ace, Hitmonlee survives, and from there the 2 remaining Dragonites and the Kingdra go down to single hits each. There's only one more battle left. Let's take on the champion and see what Hitmonlee's post-game time is. The Heracross at the beginning of the battle I make a truly perplexing choice against. I choose Rock Slide, which is like objectively a terrible choice. It could have gone for counter and reflected a bunch of damage back at me. In this case it doesn't. I should really set up Bulk Up until I can just one-shot and avoid counter altogether. I have a very unfocused approach here, luckily dodging a Rock Tomb, not getting my speed lowered, and with +2 attack I knock the Heracross out. He sends in Tyranitar next, which doesn't make a lot of sense because Brick Break does 4 times damage. Then Alakazam is easy to one-shot with Earthquake, and Rock Slide combos, flinching the Executor into a 2-hit. There are only 2 Pokemon left and both of them are flying types. Charizard goes down to a single Rock Slide, and so does the Gyarados. Hitmonlee clocks in with a post-game time of 22 minutes and 7 seconds with 6 resets at level 75, with a cumulative game time of 4 hours and 54 minutes. As expected, Hitmonlee was an absolute beast in these games. I had a little bit of doubt in my mind that maybe fighting types wouldn't perform as well in FireRed and Leaf Green as they do in Emerald version, just because there are more fast flying types in this game. But Bulk Up really does still get the job done, at least for Hitmonlee. That does leave me wondering, how would Hitmonchan do in these games? But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. First, we need to rank Hitmonlee in the tier list. Its post-game results were good, but not quite enough for the S tier. Today it earns itself a spot in the A tier. By the way, just to explain for everyone how I'm doing this, I'm doing my first attempts in one tier list, then the post-games that are attached to those first attempts in a second tier list, and finally there'll be a third tier list with all of my follow-up attempts, and this will rank Pokemon based on their final finish after the second champion is defeated. Let's now go back to my first attempt tier list and rank Hitmonlee. It just barely wasn't able to beat out Mewtwo's 57 minutes and 27 second time, but with a time of 59 minutes and 27 seconds, it was able to get the second place in the S tier, beating out both Mr. Mime and Hypno. Interestingly enough, it seems like there is going to be a showdown between fighting types and psychic types for supremacy in the remakes. That might make you wonder, why did Primeape get such bad results? Its time was 1 hour 55 minutes and 9 seconds. If you want to see the major mistake I made, check out this video. Now, if you've made it this far, you are incredible. Thank you so much for the support. Daily December is starting a little bit early because tomorrow there's going to be another video, which is Hitmonchan in FireRed. I'll see you then.